Okay, are we recording?
We are recording now. Yep.
Well, and let's go ahead and call the City Council's Finance Committee meeting of April 20th to order. And it looks like the first thing that's normally on our agenda is going through the financials and looking at the sales tax. So, Noah?
Thank you, Chairman. So I have pulled up on my screen here the sales tax collection report. Again, this provides us sales tax collections through March of 2021. Another great month. Very happy to report our actuals for 21 year over year is up 18% when compared to 2020. And we compare the actuals received year to date against our budget amount, we're about 27% over our 3-month period of budget. So sales tax continue to remain to be very strong for us. Through the biennial period, we have received approximately 15% of our overall biennial budget.
Noah, for Sean's benefit, can I call out those, instead of those percentages, the dollars? So that 18% year over year represents $274,000, and the 27% over budget is $343,000.
Yeah, and Mayor Sean here, I was able to read all of those reports prior to the meeting, so
Perfect.
I'm familiar with those numbers as well, but thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor, you read 274, I see 247.
Okay. Yes, I transposed that number. But
Okay.
274 sounds better.
It does sound a lot better, but even 247 sounds pretty good. So
It is good. Yes.
Yeah, so for 1 quarter of data, we're $250,000 roughly above where we were last year at this time. So that's great news as we continue to look forward.
right.
On
And
the real
343 over what we had budgeted for the
Mhm.
period.
yeah.
Okay.
So looking at REIT, REIT is also continuing to be relatively strong. As a percentage of our overall biennial budget, we've collected 33% of our biennial total. So again, that's fantastic for where we sit with just Q1 of our biennial budget. Year to date, we've collected $461,000, which is about $265,000 more than we collected in 2020 at the same period of time. Another big month in March, we saw some significant real estate transactions. So this just wasn't just housing. There were some commercial sales. I think about $8 million of sales on the commercial side. So that provided another big number for March.
No, when we look on this report at the REIT numbers, those are a combination of REIT 1 and REIT 2, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
They're split virtually 50-50.
Right, but we're looking at the total of both.
Yes.
Yes. So again, very similar to sales tax when we compare to our budgeted amount, we're roughly $330,000 more than we had planned on in our budget at this time. So 250% above our budget. Really, really strong REIT numbers right now. And we are more than halfway to our 2021 goal. And still got 9 months to go.
It's outstanding.
Yeah, so great revenue numbers on sales tax and REIT. Earlier this week, I sent out, or maybe it was Friday, I sent out this screen. I sent out the monthly report. And so I'm going to switch to a fund balance. So when we look at the close of our funds as of the end of March, all of our funds remain really, really strong. We have roughly $7.5 million in the general fund, $1.4 million in our street fund. Our REIT fund remains strong. Our impact fee fund remains strong. There's nothing of concern at this period of time with our ending fund balances, all real strong. Are there any questions on our ending fund balances through March?
No, it all looks good.
No, and just a quick question, just looking forward a little bit as we get into, a mid-year review, which I know is not that far off. Are there any deficiencies for us obtaining our reserve policies and any of our reserve or our accounts? This would be a great opportunity that we're pacing ahead is to maybe, be able to finish any of those off, when we get to the mid-year review.
Yeah, that's a great topic, and I was going to bring that up. So thank you for starting us down that path. So we did budget in the budget for a biennium. We budgeted by the end of the biennium achieving all our targets. What I've committed to the finance committee and the way we've approached it is that we haven't made those transfers from our operating funds to those reserve funds yet. We want to kind of continue to monitor how things are going. And if we get to a place where we feel like, hey, this is a very good, comfortable cash position, maybe we start to make those transfers. Now that we got Q1 done, I was planning on starting to either make those transfers next month, a smaller portion, not the full transfer amount, but maybe I was planning on doing it quarterly, but since I missed my quarterly deadline, I'm thinking maybe doing a third of the year of contribution. But I will note that for the general fund to stabilization 003 fund, I have already made that transfer. So that reserve fund is fully funded already. I made that transfer, I think, in the second month when I just saw that the fund balances were very, very strong in looking at the budget and transfers needs. There didn't seem to be any reason not to make that transfer of $200,000 and just close that one down. The other ones, the water. So the other ones we're watching the water stabilization, storm stabilization, and sewer stabilization. Again, we haven't made those transfers yet, but I'm watching those operating balances and looking at forward how much of that money we'll need to complete the budget, how revenues are coming in. And so we'll start tackling those transfers at a prorated basis.
I think it's important to note, though, when you're talking about these utility accounts, the revenues that we talked about a few minutes ago with sales tax and REIT is all pretty much general fund money, where the utilities are looked at separately. So the revenue coming in for those utilities as well would be funding those stabilizations. Is that correct?
That's a great point. Yeah, great point.
Yeah, excited to make sure just make sure we don't lose sight of getting those reserves taken care of. So thank you.
You're
so as long
breaking up, John.
Yeah,
So as
he
long
just
as
wanted to, I think his comment was not to lose sight of making sure we hit those reserve targets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good.
Yeah, I think my goal would be by 6 months to have an equivalent prorated 6 months worth of biennial contributions. So there were several approaches we could take. We could do this monthly. We can do this ad hoc. I wanted to get to a quarterly transfer. I just didn't get it because of all the other activities that were going on. So I think with April, May, and then by the end of June, we can have a 6 month of a 24-month kind of contribution, at least transferred over to those funds.
And
Personally, I think if
go ahead, John.
we could set ourselves up on do a regular review and deposit, it would be much better than sporadic or ad hoc.
And if I heard you correctly, Noah, you did make the transfer to the general fund.
Yes.
But it's the enterprise or restricted funds which aren't as robust as the general fund is, that we haven't made those transfers.
Yep.
They're still good, but they're just not, they aren't affected by sales tax and real estate transactions.
Yeah.
No, I know that if we were to loan funds from one utility to the next, whoever is the receiving would have to pay interest back to the original utility. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
So would that apply to transfers from general fund in and out? Would that also be obligated to pay the interest? I mean, for example, if we transferred funds from the general fund into a utility fund, would the utility then be obligated to pay interest to the general fund?
Yes, yeah, we would have to actually take, council would actually have to take action as an interfund loan.
Right,
So we'd have to bring some type of interfund loan resolution forward, which we would spell out all the borrowing details
right,
of the
right.
interfund loan. And in that, I'd put some type of interest equivalent that kept the funds whole, as if the money had stayed in that account.
I think that's important for the community that may be watching this meeting, that they understand that we have to treat these funds as separate funds, and we can't just blend the dollars to make it all equal.
Yes,
point.
yeah, great points. So I wanted to pause and ask if there were any questions on the monthly report itself, on any of the information we provided. I didn't hear from any council, so I just want to give the finance committee a chance to ask any questions on the monthly report, if there's anything else.
Look great to me. Thank you, Noah.
Okay. I did run this report. So this is something that we talked about during the budget process, as far as what we're using to pay for our large capital projects. And so this is something that we committed to monitoring, because this is the first time we really took, I would say, a more aggressive position on forecasting these revenues, and really working with DCD to target them to connections and what's going on in permitting activity. So there's nothing good or bad about this report right now. I'm just bringing it forward. I'm sharing it with the other directors to show kind of where we're at year to date. I think it's helpful just to kind of keep this in front of us every quarter, so we can monitor the water connection revenue coming in, as well as the sewer connection revenue. So with the water connection revenue, we budgeted a total of roughly $970,000 of water revenue charges to come in. Year to date, we've collected $180,000. So we still have about $787,000 to go for 21 to reach our goal. For the sewer connection charges, we budgeted $1.646 million. And again, we've collected $245,000. So we have $1.4 million to go before the end of the year to reach our goal. So nothing good or bad about these numbers yet. I think if we were sitting here in September and these were the targets, then I would raise some concerns. But first quarter, knowing that this money comes in very infrequent as people are building homes and kind of getting through the permitting process, no real concerns here. But I do share this information with DCD, and then Nick does a good job of kind of checking it over and giving me ideas of when he thinks the next tranche of permits are coming in.
And historically, we're going into the construction season, so we should see a bump up here in these categories in the next couple of months.
But now that 1.4 you've got, that's for the entire biennium, correct? Not just for the year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I believe that the driving different factors when we made this estimate to the 1.6, we had already worked towards having new sewer connection fees in place. So the sewer connection charges were larger, or had adjusted, where we have not changed the water connection fees yet. And so we were using our current water fee structure to make those projections. So you can see a significant difference in revenue side between the water and sewer, but that'll be part of the conversation tonight and over the next month and a half as we talk about water connection charges and water capital projects. Okay, and then that was the last thing I had. Invited Public Works Director Mark Dorsey here to talk about some stormwater with the assistance of the mayor.
So Mark, you want me to take this, or you want to?
I can just launch in and kind of know where we're at. The city, we know that the Sydney Avenue Road project, that's project 2.01 on our transportation improvement program, is something that we definitely want to do. We'd like to elevate that project. And we have located a property that is needed in order for this complete street project to move forward. And I can say that we are just beginning kind of the purchase and sale conversations with the property owner, so that we can tie up this property, so that we can have a regional stormwater facility, so that we can install curb gutter and sidewalks and have a collection system, or we can meet the Department of Ecology water quantity and water quality treatment standards. So we're really just, starting that conversation, but at this point we have a viable seller, and I'm very anxious to get into a purchase and sale agreement.
So just kind of, so everybody's familiar with the area we're talking about. It's the Sydney South or Flower Meadows area. And we need a large parcel of land, at the bottom of the basin. There's a site that meets our needs down there. We're concerned with the rate of construction activity going on in our community, that someone may buy this property up and put homes on it, and then we end up with a very expensive solution like Tremont, with a big vault versus a large pond and potentially park site around it. So Mark's had preliminary conversations with the seller. They're willing to sell. We pursued a grant for this property for $1 million last year. We didn't get it. Mark's skeptical that we're going to get it. I would hope, I'm kind of looking for your guys' heads nodding that we should tie this property up, hope that we get the grant this fall. If we don't, then we need to look to probably a borrowing that's paid by the stormwater utility, or our cash carry forward funds that we ended the year with could be a possibility too. Of course, we'd like to get the grant first. I just feel like if we wait till the end of this year or into next year, we could miss out, and we'd end up spending far more money solving the stormwater challenges of that area. So
Or are we talking about like an earnest money, you wait contingent upon the grant?
Yeah, we would winter into it. We would give them some earnest money. We're going to buy your piece of property. Our grant, we'll know on our grant this, October, I think, or November. And if we don't get the grant, then we're going to need to either do a borrowing or use some of our available cash to close on that piece of property and not string them out a couple of years. They're willing to sell, and willing to wait a little bit, but they aren't going to wait 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah, and I think it's much more likely that the grant, that if we secure the property, that can be used as a match, and it's going to help us score higher on actually getting grant funding or loan funding to actually develop the facility versus purchasing. But we will pursue the purchase grant. But as the mayor mentioned, this property, when you start looking at highest and best value, the highest and best value of this property is needed for the Sydney project. It's extremely important.
And the Bethel purchases drained our fund balances for stormwater. So we do have cash flow from stormwater that we could, pledge to a loan, or depending on what our cash position is at the end of the year, maybe we just want to use some of our cash and utilize it that way. We can't use restricted money for general fund purposes, but we can use unrestricted money for enterprise fund activity if we choose to. Or as John pointed out, we make our own loan to ourselves. That's a possibility too. We can look into that. Those are typically done short term though, and not long term.
Right. Well, I certainly think it'd be a wise investment. As we've learned with Tremont, those large tennis court size vaults are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally am very supportive, and that particular project for what I call the quadrant south of Tremont, north of Highway 16 and west of Pottery down to Blackjack. That's one of my priority issues. So anything we can do to move the project forward, the transportation element out there, I'm supportive of that. Even at delaying other things, I think that that's a critical project for the city.
I'm fully supportive as well. It's the right time to do it. If we don't act now, as Rob said, this could get much more expensive moving forward.
So
So-
just going to this realistic, we're going to try for the grant, as Mark pointed out. Land acquisition grants don't score well, and we're likely going to be coming, we'll come back obviously with the purchase and sale to the full council, and we're likely going to have to fund this from something other than the grant, and revenue is looking good right now.
So about how large of a piece of property is this?
It's 32 acres and 20 of it's usable.
But the unusable portion can be used for passive recreation, so.
Okay, so the next step would be you guys should come back to the full council with a purchase and sales agreement.
Yeah, we put Jennifer to work next.
Okay.
Or Charlie, sorry.
Sounds like you've got the committee support.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll charge forward.
Okay. All right, is that it with stormwater? I guess we can move right to the Debbie and the chief on court security.
So we talked about this previously, and John had some concerns about our methodology, and our attorney proved those out. And so we're back to talk about this a little more. It's still a solution involving our police officers and police guild. And with that, Debbie, take it away.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me tonight. Yeah, we are going to enter into negotiations with our police guild to provide those court security services for the municipal court once they reopen. The court estimates that it's only about 3 hours a week. And then occasionally there's a trial. They are infrequent in our court, but I probably just jinxed it. So we'll see how that all plays out. But we're looking at costs of less than $15,000 a year to have our guild members provide that service, compared to about $64,000 that we were paying when we had a 3/4 time employee assigned for those duties. So it's a good deal for both sides. We did address the overtime questions that came up at this committee last meeting, and we will be proposing to the guild to pay the overtime rate for those extra hours. And the chief can speak to the scheduling of that and how that all would occur. But we're hoping this is a win-win for both parties, both the city and the union members.
If I may, our court operates much more than 3 hours a week. The reason that this is going to work is our court has embraced Zoom and technology, and people love it. I mean, Sean gets a parking ticket. He can stay at work and pop in and plead his case to the judge. So there are folks that Zoom doesn't work for, and we're gonna, and they think they kind of know what that time slot is, and they're gonna do live court for a period of time, and then the rest of it is likely gonna stay virtual. So it's pretty cool. One of the few benefits of COVID.
Right. If over time we see that pendulum swing where there's more live court versus virtual court, do we envision that we're going to continue going down this path of overtime for court security, or will we be able to, wherever it's justified, bring on another position that we can then avoid overtime rates?
So Sophia Maybe of Summit Law, she raised that very question, Mr. Clausen, and if the union agrees with our proposal, they will also agree that the city reserves the right to change our mind about how we do this.
Okay.
So if the county does again offer this service, or we have some other way to do it, or hire an employee or whatever, but the guild will be acknowledging, if they sign our proposal, that they cannot claim this as union.
Great.
And we would need to have a lot more court to, we're at 15,000 now, and it was costing us 60. We would, almost have to be back to where we were with full-time in-person court to tip it over the other direction. Then we could get there. There's no doubt about it. So I'm glad we have that language.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not locking ourselves into something, that we do have the flexibility if in fact there is a change. You never know what the legislature is going to come out and say, no virtual courts. So, just be proactive, I guess, or preemptive.
Chief, you have anything to add?
No, I think even if they did go to 2 full-time or 2 days of court, I mean, I think that's still far more manageable if we have this agreement. Like Debbie said, there's flexibility there. So if another option comes up, but I still have the same concerns about maintaining a full-time court position within the police department. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the next question, is you can provide all the hours of coverage on the street while maintaining this court presence. So
only so this
appreciate
is
it overtime.
Yeah, it's only going to be overtime. I cannot guarantee that even if we've got 4 people on duty that I can put somebody in court, because I don't know what's going to happen. So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the committee? Comments? Go forth and do good.
Well, thank you. Try to bring back a deal to the full council.
Sounds like a plan. All right. That's everything on our agenda. Is there anything?
There's one there's
We
one
snuck
late
one on.
Yeah, the mayor requested one late addition, sorry, which was not in the draft. So I'll turn over to the mayor, who wanted to discuss the American Rescue Plan.
So, and I know we've got this on the agenda on the retreat agenda on Friday, and but I just wanted to chat with you about it. Noah and I were on a conference call today, and we're going to be on another one. We're going to be one of 8 cities nationally participating with the National League of Cities with on a Zoom call Friday with White House staff in drafting the rules, helping them draft the rules for the recovery plan, which is really cool. And one of the brilliant ideas that Noah brought up was potentially delinquent utility payments. If we could allow for that, it wasn't allowed for it in CARES. If a small city like us is going to do grants, it's got to be so simple, because the problem is the documentation requirements that we had in CARES. If we went down that path again, KEDA would need to hire a person, and we would need to hire a person. And what we heard today is it's likely that we could not use the grant award for hiring people. So it's really a deal killer. So we're going to be there front lines helping craft the rules for this. I just wanted to share that with you and let you know we're going to try to get maximum flexibility in this. We've got some ideas, but ultimately, if we can't get the flexibility we need, I think our best alternative, because there's really only three paths for us, and one of them is repayment of lost revenue. Well, we haven't lost revenue. Grants to businesses that have suffered loss, and then infrastructure. And we were told today infrastructure does not include roads. It's got to be our enterprise fund utilities. Infrastructure that we've got to use these funds for. So
what about broadband?
We could, but we don't have our own broadband utility.
I know, but could we work with PUD to string broadband throughout the city?
Your call, but we can
No,
protect
I'm
our
asking, could
ratepayers.
we? Is that it?
I don't
For what you
know
do
that we
today,
can
is
hand
that
it.
an option?
Yeah, I don't know that we can hand it to another person or another entity so
Mhm.
we'll figure those things out as we, but
Yeah, the rules aren't clear yet, and which was what was kind of nice talking with Mr. Gleason from the National League of Cities. He said the reason the White House is doing this and reaching out to these cities that are classified as non-entitlement cities, which are cities with a population of less than 50,000. Again, smaller cities across the nation. What they learned from the CARES Act is that they felt it was poorly handled in the rollout, the multiple changes, the rules always changing, the requirements always changing. And it had a bigger impact on those type of cities, non-entitlement cities, smaller cities, because we just don't have the staffing levels to keep up with all these constant changes of the rules and applications of the program. So the White House is trying to reach out to that group of cities and entities to see how they can better streamline, better get the money out of the federal and state levels into our local communities to help stimulate the economy and help people continue to work and do good things. So I thought that was really encouraging. I'm hoping that we have some influence to help make the rules simple or at least not multiple iterations of changes that we're chasing and still not sure what the rules are as they're writing them.
My,
So that was really
my
good.
question on the broadband, I wasn't thinking that we would turn it over, pass through to the PUD, for example, but if we could write a contract with the PUD and use the funding to help pay that contract. So I guess it's just a technicality more than anything else. So, and that was just an idea. I just wanted to know if it was possible. And for one, congratulations that you guys get the opportunity to even provide some input. I think that's pretty cool all in itself. So
yes,
good job.
Congratulations, Port Orchard. Like, who are we out of the entire nation to get selected to go?
Well,
meet
we're
with
very
White House?
important. We know that.
we know that,
the
but
White House
wow.
recognizes it. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
Peter
yeah,
King
yeah.
reached out to me from Association Washington City and asked me to participate. I don't know that I was his first ask, but I accepted.
yeah, it was.
It was. We'll go with that. One
Yeah.
thing I want to share too is, in this CARES, I participated in a number of mayor's exchanges last year, and I heard the things that I'm just thankful for the staff that we have, because I would hear these great ideas on how people were deploying CARES money, and I'd take notes. And I was questioning it. I go, man, I don't know how they're doing that. And I'd run into, oh, no, I got another great idea. And he'd point out to me in the legislation why we can't do that. And when those folks get audited, they got to pay that money back. And we just can't ever be in that situation.
Absolutely.
So, we gave out a significant, $150,000 last year and $5,000 grants. And it was extremely cumbersome, but I know we did it right.
Yeah, it's all well documented.
Yeah, and I can't say that about some of my peers, and how they went about it and what they were doing, and some of the ways they were deploying the money was scary to me.
Well, fortunately, we only have to worry about Port Orchard, and they'll have to deal with it in the future. So
yes.
Anyway, I still congratulations, whether it was through your contact with AWC or whatever, to be able to provide input on what will be hopefully the outcome and how the fund can be used. So
yes.
Good job.
Thank you. And
Anything else there?
Noah gets to come along too. So
Yeah, well,
because he makes me look
sorry,
good.
Noah, but comes with the territory, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Mayor?
No.
Committee members, anything?
Nothing here. Thank you all.
All right. Well, good job, everybody. And I guess we'll stand adjourned then. See you in a little while.
Yep, see you
Thank you.
about